Welcome to Guys Like Us. You found a podcast about the topics that you come across when you are, and let's face it, in midlife. These are topics about friendship, about leadership, about exciting topics of the world right now. In short, all the topics that move us, and not only move us as men, apparently, because we just found out that over 50% of our listeners, at least in the past 30 days, were women. So
amazing. How cool is that?
That's very cool. So your topic today is actually money in relationships. So that's a fun one for everybody out there. And your hosts today are Marc, calling in from, we're gonna solve this puzzle in a second, and myself, Paul, calling in from Vienna. Marc, how's it going, my friend? Where are you joining us from?
I am in the 9th arrondissement in Paris. I flew. It's funny. I was supposed to fly tomorrow, but then I changed my flight to come a day earlier because New York is experiencing its first major blizzard in 10 years. So we're getting a good half meter of snow. Yeah.
Did you check whether your flight tonight? Well, it wouldn't have left yet, right? Was canceled. Was your flight canceled?
Yeah, of course it was. Yeah.
The one you should have taken.
3,000. They canceled 3,000.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So,
all right. I mean, you could have been lucky, right? And one of the other three that weren't canceled. But hey, that's a pretty good call, I would say. Pretty good call. It would have sucked if I went to Paris tomorrow and you had still been in New York, to be honest.
That was also in the back of my mind, to be honest. So I said, let's de-risk, and then on multiple fronts.
I think there's more important things than me coming to Paris for you here. But anyways,
that's true. That's true. Exactly. So I owe my wife something special on the way back because she's now has 2 kids on snow days. But this was an important one to get out.
Dude, we're gonna find something. So now that you are in Paris, the pressure is up. What is the drink you're having tonight for our session tonight?
Shit. I'm only drinking a Coke Zero. I should have got a beer. It's embarrassing. But this is my little lift before this podcast, and then
all right.
I'll kick it up a notch
before you take off tonight. All right. No, that's okay. Exactly. That's fine. But hey, I mean, you flew in this morning. What did you do in Paris so far? What was your?
I landed, and the thing I like to do is go for a long walk to get over jet lag. So I found a bistro actually all the way by the Eiffel Tower. That's supposed to be really good. The reason why I went there is because my eldest son Felix is into that Pixar movie Ratatouille, and I said, "Listen, I'm going to go to the little rat Remy's house," and he was so excited, and so then I can FaceTime him with the Eiffel Tower behind, and so he was really into it. So that's what mattered.
Oh, very nice.
The things we do.
Nice. The things I had a super nice Sunday, to be honest. I had an afternoon with my kids and friends, and then we had a lunch actually before that. But I'm going to talk about this later. But that was my today's wine, where we got served some amazing. I will tell you, an amazing Macon Village, white Burgundy. Beautiful. You would have, I mean, it got me right into the Paris mood, man. And then a very beautiful Austrian wine afterwards, which I don't think is easy to follow something like this, which was from Burgenland, the most eastern province with the most sun in Austria. But it wasn't that heavy. It was a Fourmint by Triebaumer. I mean, both of them. Let's listen back to this podcast when we don't remember what to drink.
Exactly.
Don't know what to drink, which never happens actually. But
never know.
In any case,
but
that was
I'm jealous.
So I kind of a really nice buzz by 2, and then we went to see these friends and we stopped drinking there, which was totally stupid because by 4:30 I was almost sleeping there, and they got slightly offended by my tiredness or our tiredness. So yeah, here we go. That was my Sunday. So I'm drinking a glass of water now because I actually wanted to stay super clean this weekend because I'm seeing you tomorrow and the day after tomorrow in Paris, and I know, and I have to work and all of this, but we wanted to, use this time to see each other, but it's usually never
it has implications.
Experience.
Yeah, exactly.
So So much
No.
for me
No, no, no.
preparing well for
No.
this weekend. Yeah.
Well, that
All
just means, well,
right.
you have prepared, it's just not the way you thought.
No, I want to say actually I prepared probably in the best possible way. My
Yeah,
my
exactly.
um yeah, yeah. All my senses are sharpened to the taste of France.
Mm.
All right. Which is going to cost some money, obviously. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Amazingly, a
Mhm.
big shout out here to a newcomer to our listeners who wrote me a message and said, I really wonder when are you going to speak about money again? Because that was an interesting episode. So we thought,
Ah,
okay, we might as well be doing that. That was the inspiration for today, Mark. Plus, I realized that in many episodes, we are talking about that we should, at one point make an episode about this and we probably never do because I
yeah.
don't know what we've been talking about the last 30 episodes we did already. So that's why I fed all of our transcript into an AI and I asked it, what are all the things that we've promised? And we have a long list, my friend. We can actually could almost do a voting thing on Spotify. What should we be talking next about of all the
Oh, that'd be
things we've
fun.
promised? We'll do that.
I think we have a fan base that's, big enough now, so let's do it.
Exactly. Yeah. More than one is actually big enough. It yields a result. All right. Okay.
Exactly.
Listen, to start us off, my friend, I found out some amazing, amazing facts. I'm not sure if you would have known or you know, but I'll just start right away. Right, this
Go for it. Go for it.
40% of divorces in the US are linked to financial stress.
Mhm.
41% of people said that money had once played a role in a breakup in the past. 35% um, say that money is a primary source of relationship stress. 46% would likely break up if there were no financial consequences. I find this one is hardcore, actually.
Wow, that's
So,
insane.
so I mean, I think these are all some very interesting stats that kind of make the point of why money plays an important part in any relationship out there. So when you hear all of this, does that come as a surprise to you, or is that something where like, well, I don't know, I'm not part of the 41.5% who ever broke up because of money, or what's your kind of first take on these stats?
I unfortunately am not surprised. I think a lot of, people I mean, have let's put it this way. I think a relationship, unfortunately, is anchored very much around love and money in a way, right? There's there's
Yeah.
love, right, that you have, etcetera, and then you need money to fuel those experiences and the energy around that, right, and the lifestyle that people want. And in high aspirational cultures, I think it's what gets in the way, right, of that balance. And, unfortunately, I can tell you I've seen many, many breakups as a result of financial stress, financial, challenges. Someone's not making enough money, someone else is not pulling their weight, they can do better, etcetera. So, um, I'm surprised it's not higher in many ways.
Actually, in many ways, I also thought so. But it is, if you really think about it, of all the other shit that can happen in a relationship, to have, almost, I think is the majority, is the single largest contributor. So all the other ones, like, I don't know, kids or different dreams or whatever comes, or infidelity, come second to that, or third or fourth. So it is the single biggest contributor to relationship stress. And what you just said, where you said relationships are basically about, love and money. Um, if you think about it, right? I mean, only very recently it started that marriages are actually about something more than money and economic stability and safety, right?
Well
Because for
said.
for the
Well
for the
said.
most part,
Yeah.
I didn't say this, right? I think it's one of the very famous things that any relationship expert say that. But you know for even for most of our parents, it was still a lot about economics, but the generation before, it was 100%. So it's only really us in the last 100 years that started this notion of romanticism and the fact that you marry for love or are in a
Yeah.
relationship for that.
Totally. Look, I mean, the dynamics of class and love and money, I mean, both in from the courting phase to the actual relation phase have spurned a million novels and are in the songs, are in the cultural zeitgeist. Actually, I was just thinking Wuthering Heights, this, this famous English novel,
Hmm.
is now
No, I
top of the
don't actually.
box
No,
office. Oh, you don't know it? Oh, really? Oh,
no,
okay.
no.
Anyway, stuff we had to read in school.
Mm.
But it's top of the box office right now globally. It's a movie starring Margot Robbie, and,
Ah,
it's all about
okay.
that. It's about,
Really?
people fall in love. One is a, kind of a rejected, person of no class. He's rejected by eventually by the woman. He
Mm.
then works really hard to strive up. Um, it's slightly different than what we're talking about because what we're really talking about is being in relationships and the stress of money in those, when you're in a relationship. But I think what we're trying to say that this is a timeless kind of struggle.
Mm. That's interesting. But if you do you remember any of your own personal struggles you've had with this, or a classical money argument you've had in your relationships? Is there one that a repeating topic, or something that you really remember well?
You know, I think it's really interesting. Like I think I selected um partners who were like-minded in how to prioritize their money. And I was lucky in this way. So they were always really about experiences. They were really about like, let's not, like forget the Gucci bag. I don't need the Chanel whatever, right? Let's put our money towards experiencing something together that felt right. So spiritually aligned about where to put it, you know? It was
Mm.
never, and we're lucky enough to have enough through that lens. I mean, your types of experiences, and the quality of them will increase over time. When I was
Yeah,
20, it
of
was
course.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
let's go backpacking, in this place, to no, we're eating at a Michelin star, whatever, right? In New York, a hot new restaurant that just opened up. But it was never like we want to buy material things or put it towards material things that I think what I've experienced. That's been a big driver for many of the pain.
But I mean, the interesting thing is, and that was also a question I asked myself in preparing for this, whether opposites attract also in that case, and
Mm,
in fact they do. In fact, they do. In fact, statistically, spender, I mean, and that's very broad, right? A spender would be attracted to a saver, right? Because the
totally.
saver would find the spending, spontaneous and exciting, and the saver would be, that's good if someone saves money. So, and so on, and so I find that interesting. So, but what you're saying is, you had, many other opposites that attracted you, so you didn't need, you were aligned on the money one, or do you think,
Yeah.
or are there
No,
differences that you think
I mean,
of?
I I definitely look, I mean, I've definitely had dated um some girls who were so clearly philosophically not aligned about money, but I would cut it off like fairly earlier. Like what they were dreaming about, right, was, was status, right? And and that's all they were talking about was the status leap
Mm,
forward. And I was like,
mm.
okay, I know what that requires, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And
I'm not gonna be able to afford that.
and
Thank you
it's like
very
it's not
much.
just that. It's like I don't want to fuel that, Like that's not
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that kind of
Mm,
ambition is not like I kind of know what that story is,
mm.
to go for. And so like I think I was lucky enough to to avoid the put it this way, the most common trappings, like one person
Mhm.
wants two separate lifestyles, right? Like I was always able to say like this is the kind of thing where we wanted to go for. What about you?
Um, I think, I mean, I never felt that. I mean, obviously, I also dated women where they also became clear very quickly that there were different ideas of how things are divided, and it was almost like a no matter uh, who makes what, it's quite clear that as a man you need to provide, where those are things where I very quickly go numb, to be honest. um
Yeah.
because even if I had been in a position to do so, it would have felt wrong. And
Yeah.
quite on the opposite, I always felt more attracted, or I think I found it always more appealing to meet a partner, potential partner, that wanted to be financially independent, even if it
Yeah.
might have been more difficult, or even if there was less or slightly less, but at least had the ambition that this was something that you didn't want to rely on, and the ambition to
Mm.
contribute and to somehow do this in a fair way. So kind of had the same values, and I think this is where where also the research points us that opposites can attract, but in the end, what money does, and that's why it's so often a point of contention. It just brings out many things that don't go well in a relationship overall, because in the end, then it's about probably you don't communicate right, you don't really understand what's behind it, right? What's behind a
Yeah.
certain wish,
Yeah.
and so it becomes that point of contention because you actually you actually have other more deeper problems in your relationship, and how you actually yeah handle things, very,
It's interesting.
to put it
Yeah,
very
like,
bluntly. Yeah.
well, here's a fun detail, like, I guess,
Mm,
related to this. So, Vera, my wife, and I, we don't share a bank account. Like,
that's an interesting one.
we've decided, I think there's something about liberty, like financial liberty, right? And, like, we split everything, costs down the middle, um, for, let's say, our child's, expenses, like, for our nanny, for the school, for even the rent, etcetera. It's just like 50-50. That's just what it is, you know? And, the rest is not like, you know, I for a while have made, and I think it's fair to say, fine to say, like, I mean, more was compensated much more than she was, but, like, that was really important for her. Like, she wanted to do something like that, or we did a ratio at one point in time as she was kind of scaling up that, like, felt fair, right, to
Yeah.
her. And and now it's 50-50, which is, credit to her. And then, obviously, as the shepherder, like, with the excess cash, and we're talking about where I'm investing, and, we have full insight into kind of what our portfolio is. But, like, there's something about, freeing each other up, or creating the illusion of liberty, of freedom,
Mm, mm.
that I find really healthy.
Okay, but couldn't you also do that if you had one joint account and everyone had their separate accounts?
We totally could do it that way. There's something about um it's an illusion. That's all it is. Like, it's just an illusion of, more
You know,
freedom.
it's interesting because I mean, I obviously looked this up as well. I can tell you here. So what
Uh,
is crazy that 20,
what did I say? What did I get
23%.
myself into?
No, actually, you are a part of the 23% that have completely separate accounts, which are usually now listen, second marriages or Gen Z. Here you go. Yeah. I was always a part of the 34% of hybrid, which means you have a joint account and you have separate accounts. Yeah,
Mm.
which is usually which is 34% of the total population in relationships that they made the survey on, and about half of Gen X's and millennials are doing that. So I'm straight in that. But what's interesting, 42% of people in a relationship have only joint accounts, like
Wow.
one joint account. And that's mainly boomers. 85% of boomers do it like that.
Okay,
Funny
but see,
enough,
that to
my
me,
parents
that
don't.
that
And I don't know
oh,
if
really?
yours do. I don't know. I know my parents have a
My
joint one and they
parents,
have their separate shit.
no, I think my parents only have a joint one.
Now here we
Um,
go.
but
Part of the
but
85.
actually, yeah, but actually, I think that's part of a lot of financial stress and argument. Like, I can imagine, like, um, how much. Let's put it this way: if it's a joint account and your wife decides to buy that coat that she's been looking at, and she just fucking buys it, and it's, $1,200 or $1,500 or something, like, a lot, right? She just doesn't ask and just buys it, and you see it on the bill. Like,
Exactly.
I can imagine you're gonna have some questions, right? If you keep it separate and it's her own fucking money and she's still paying everything off, it's her choice to make that choice,
Exactly.
right?
And that's exactly an interesting one. Right? I mean, have you ever had an argument about stupid shit that you buy? Is there something that really pisses Vera off that you buy?
No, I mean, I look, I'm weirdly more pragmatic about what I buy than like, there's no.
So if you go to Astor
there's no
Wines and it's like,
Porsche.
"I'm sorry, there was a sale. There's a truck arriving in a few minutes with a."
Yeah, but
Uh,
that's like a few hundred bucks. You know, it's not like there's no my like I bought a Corvette. It's downstairs. You know, or like that classic. You know, dumbass stuff. You know.
yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like we're fairly reasonable with our money, though. Like we overspend, or we're a little loose, I guess. Let's put it this way on the restaurants and the fun stuff.
I
But
also, I
hey,
mean, if you think of friends, I don't think I've had any. I mean, it's probably, I don't know, if I listen to some friends, it's like, why did he have to buy another pair of skis, or why did he have to pair another, 7,000, euro road bike? And I kind of hear these
yeah,
things, but then they're more in a joking way because probably the rest is arranged in a sense. So,
right,
and
right.
I guess also the big things that really piss people off, and maybe they're not going to talk about it in public. I don't know. Maybe we never get to hear
Well,
them
well,
because there's
look,
a
I
lot of
mean,
shame around this. There's a lot of not
I
talking
agree.
about this.
I think actually, like, honestly, it's when it comes to kids, and I'm just getting into it. So, I mean, let me be clear. Like, if we make a choice to send our kids to private school for a long period of time, you know, in New York City, that's gonna like something needs to give,
Yeah,
right?
but then
Either
you
like
don't have
in
any money
terms,
to buy a Corvette or even
yeah,
anything else
that's
to
not
wines
no,
anymore
but then
anyways. I mean,
you
that problem's
right.
solved.
That's just it. Well, then someone wants to treat themselves. The question is, who is it going to be? You know,
Yeah,
the
exactly,
adults,
exactly. Yeah.
right? And that's where I think a lot of the stress comes from, because if you look into like what eats into your cash, right? In a city like New York, between the nannies, the transportation, your casual nights out, your babysitters, etc. It's like your rent. I mean, it's embarrassing the number that you would need to make. I think in most countries, just total comp, right, between
No, no, I fully, I
families,
understand. I understand.
and
But
then
the funny
and
thing is,
then
yeah. Have you, sorry, are you aware
no, go
of
ahead.
the term financial infidelity? Because it's linked to what we just discussed.
No, it's kind of fun. Tell me about
It's
it. It sounds
no,
sleazy.
it's around 2 out of 5 people in relationships admit to that financial infidelity, and it's hiding either accounts or debt or spending or income.
Really?
Mhm.
Huh? Huh?
Which is a major source, obviously. I guess those 2 in 5, yeah, those 40% are basically the same 40% who get the divorce. I think that's that's linked. That's a one on
Okay.
one. Yeah.
I mean, have I hid a dumbass purchase from my wife? 100%. Like I'm sure you've done that in your relationship. You're like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I bought this whatever, right?
Yeah.
It was never like an egregious amount. Like, it's not that I bought a timeshare in Portugal. It was,
Exactly. Exactly. Oops.
oops. No, it was some stupid bottles of wine I bought or something, like, nothing dumb stuff. But um the infidelity part, I think, is really interesting because, I mean, you know how many people carry debt, and we're talking, we should say, from a place of privilege, right? Like, I don't carry any
I
debt. I
do
don't think you
carry a
do.
debt, though.
Oh, you do? How much
But
debt?
yes. No,
Yeah.
well, I do have a mortgage on a
Oh,
flat.
you have a
Yeah.
mortgage. Of course, of
Yeah.
course, of course. Yeah, yeah. So you carry debt in that sense, but not like credit card debt. Um,
Yeah, or debt to
uh,
friends. That's actually one of the biggest red flags that there is in a relationship, according to surveys. That if someone owes money to friends, is supposed to be a big red flag for 64% of the recipients of that
do
survey.
you
Which
so have you ever lent a friend money?
yes,
How did it feel?
weird, and in a sense, but yeah, I mean, it's not that I didn't ask any questions. I mean, and then I obviously knew I know the person, and then at one point, you just do it, and then never think about it again. I think it's a bit like an investment in a startup. You
Did you get it
just
back?
say good. Um, I didn't get it back yet, but it's also not time yet.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's also not time yet, and it's totally fine. There is no contention around. This is easy, but it
Yeah.
also wasn't a whole lot. Yeah, yeah, but
Yeah,
that
yeah.
has happened. Mm.
Hmm. Mm.
But it is a difficult one, right? But I also think that in friendships you don't ask if you don't really need, and shit can happen in lives, you know. So I
Of
don't find
course.
I find it interesting that so many people take this up as a red flag, um, because I find it kind slightly judging, to be very honest with you. Because I don't know, if you are a good judge of friends, I would say your real friends would never ask you if there wasn't something happening that they really needed help.
I agree. I
So
think I I
here
I
you
think
go.
for the most part, I agree. Right, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know
Mm.
if I don't know if I would call a friend if I wasn't ready. It wouldn't be ready to lend them money if they asked.
Hmm.
Because to me that's a sign of because a sign of, someone has their shit together, and shit happens, and unfortunate things, and you can also do something stupid. That's also
So,
fine. As long
but
as
you
you
know what,
kind of
though?
are reflected on that. I don't know. I would be fine with that.
Okay. Well, here's on a much more minor scale, and I don't want to get us off
Yeah,
piece, but like I
yeah.
think Venmo and PayPal changed a lot of those dynamics of friend stuff. Like and what I mean by that
In
is,
what sense?
oh my god, like the $300 your friends owes you, your $400, or like from this ski vacation from this year,
Yeah.
like I
Okay.
remember
Yeah.
back in the day, like I would keep a ledger, and then I'd be like kind of annoyed if I wasn't getting paid, and now you can just ping them and and whatever's
Send
annoying
it to
you,
me.
send
Yeah.
it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. It makes a difference.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, so okay, back to like money and relationships. You've never really had a fight ever
I
about
never
money.
really had. I mean, listen. I was in a relationship once where my partner was a way more diligent saver, and we went on vacation, and she would spend, $20 a day, and I would spend 100. Yeah, but it was my money, and I did it. It made me feel bad all the time, and kind of pissed me off. But it really never, went to as far as a fight. I think. And 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 honestly, no, I never had fights, but I would be lying if I said that it never had an influence on me. Because I think what's really interesting and what you said, right, is if you can and do contribute equally, or I mean, what kind of best practices say if you don't, it's also what you do, right? If one makes 100K and the other one makes 200K, then one person contributes a third, the other one contributes two
Yep.
thirds,
Yep.
according basically to what really, you make. And I think that makes a lot of sense to the common expenses, right? Um, and I think, and was also I think is interesting, and obviously as men, and I don't know if you feel the same, we 70% of men feel like they need to be the providers. Do you feel like that? Would you be honestly completely fine if you didn't have to be?
You know what? My answer to this is changing. I
From yes to no, or from no to yes?
uh from no to yes, and I think, and I'll explain. Like I think for a lot of reasons, age, career, etc. Like I've been always making more money than my wife, right?
Hmm.
Now, technically, as I'm a founder of a company with lots of interest, but
That
no
has
revenue.
changed.
Just changes, as a um, and look, outside of having the support and all that, I was thinking like, huh, like, it would be really nice if I could just experiment a little bit more, and just play a little bit more, and have the security of my wife's job, right? Just to you know give me a little bit more runway, and also thinking, and then I was thinking about, does it really matter? Like, it would be amazing if she made bucket loads of money in big tech, whatever whatever job is, and I can just still create something meaningful. What's wrong with that? And
No, I think no, no. I think on the face of what you're just saying, that sounds great. But if all of that came with the same kind of power dynamic that you probably observed, in your parents' generation, and probably even in a generation right now, I do sometimes where, the husband makes much more, and then also kind of is the one that gets to say what's being done. And
yeah,
there is a power struggle that comes with it, which is, to be honest, sometimes not so much as a struggle, but a huge cementing of the already traditional gender roles. And so if that came to the surface
Mm.
then, kind of a turnaround, would you still feel comfortable?
I don't know. I mean, I'm really being honest. Like, I mean, part of me feels like I
I
would
mean, it
like.
sounds amazing. I agree with you because it sounds like,
It
listen, she's making
sounds
the big bucks.
great.
I'm just playing around, looking
Yeah,
after the
yeah.
kids, great. Awesome.
Listen, look. I mean, I know I've met some of these guys, right? Um, who, I work obviously with very high powered executives, and many of which are female, and I met their husbands, right? And they're for the most part fucking off, right? And they're totally lost. It's really funny. Like,
Yeah.
um, you know, and not all of them, but but some of them like really are, and I find it it, it I guess what it requires to be really comfortable is a rewiring of traditional masculinity that you grew up thinking about, right?
Yeah.
So
And I think in both ways, I think from all of us, you know, and I'm happy to share that I was in a relationship where it didn't all depend on what I made,
yeah,
and there was enough money also from my wife's side that would to live a good life, and that I think it never really brought up problems, but I think in the years after, I understood also how it challenged myself and how it challenged my own perception of what would be my role. And at least I always felt that me, and I worked hard in this time, that me working hard, because that's was not needed. Financially, it
no,
was great and it was there, but it wasn't needed financially. And but I grew up, in a family where my dad was the sole, money maker, and so him working hard was also meant that we could, do nice things, that we could live in a nice place, blah blah blah,
yeah,
all of the things, right? And to me, that wasn't true to the same extent. So I sometimes had the feeling, I'm just doing this for fun, and I guess it made me feel bad because to a certain extent, it's true. It was for my own ego that I worked hard and that I had the career and so on.
and you worked really
Um,
hard.
and I worked
You
really
weren't
hard
just
during
you
these
weren't
years.
just you weren't just taking a job. You were working really hard,
No, no,
like
I was
proving
absolutely
something
working
to
my ass
yourself.
off to an
Yeah,
extent that I wouldn't only attribute it to work, but I was also lost to a
yeah.
certain extent.
Oh,
And looking for something that I also didn't find at work. But my point is that I think there is something, and to me, it wasn't that easy to handle this situation. I think in
mm,
hindsight, like about many things, if you talked about them openly, and if you actually understood what was going on, or if I had understood what was going on with myself, that probably would have been different. And I always felt like what I did wasn't appreciated, which probably wasn't even true. But maybe it was just me that felt that.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, like it's almost cute, right? Relative to, I can feel it as you were thinking
Yeah.
about it. Yeah,
Exactly. So,
yeah.
and that's totally fine. I don't want to pin, my whole,
No,
what led to a divorce and stuff on this. But I mean, I was in that situation where if you wanted, the roles were a bit inversed, and I think in many relationships that can happen. Think of, one partner inheriting a large sum. Think of
totally,
one
totally.
partner making a great exit. And all of a sudden. And there is a certain the dynamic shifts, and I don't even want to say power dynamic, but the dynamic shifts. And what I find very interesting, because I was lucky in the past years to also do some coaching on this money topic, especially, and talked to coaches about this topic who work with this topic solely. So that's mainly, I think, what I
Mm,
wanted to say. Sorry. And
mm,
what's super interesting is to explore what the messages are that your parents actually gave you, and what you actually grew up with, and what the almost baggage is that you bring
totally,
inside, into a
totally.
relationship. And if you uncover that, as with many of the other things and aspects of therapy, what are the influences you bring, from the past into your presence and in your relationship, you kind of understand better how you deal with that as well.
Yeah.
And I
You
give
know,
you a very
the
example. Is very so just,
Go
and then
for
I'm
it.
going to
And
finish this. Think of a classic example: a couple, one partner really wants to buy a flat and have security and do all of that, and the other one says it's a stupid decision, it's economically not viable and feasible, and it makes much more sense to buy a flat and rent it and so on. It's not about does it make sense or not. It's like, a need of security and
mm,
maybe another need there, and there but in the end, you're talking about buying a flat or not, but it's actually not about that, right?
Right.
It is
Right, of
about,
course.
you know, does it
Yeah.
objectively make sense? Is it better to buy or rent? It's probably better to rent, yeah, and with
Right.
taxes and all. Does
Right.
it make you
Right.
feel better, and does it, kind of make you calm down if you buy? Yes. And can one person understand that and the other one can't? Yes, because we all grow up
Right.
in a different
Right,
environment.
right, right, of
Yeah.
course, of course. Yeah.
So I find that
Huh.
interesting. So that's what we said in the beginning, that money kind of
I think
uncovers lots of things.
totally. And this thing about what your parents bring in is so obviously important. And actually, I think that's your first relationship to money. Let's be clear, right? Like that's the first,
Absolutely.
and how they talk, how they look at each other, how they
Yeah.
manage it. And I I, I grew up with a very unique mom. I think for her, or maybe not that unique, but like a very much a feminist, a bleeding edge. Like I'm going to make my money, and all about equality, financial and financial liberation. And she talked about that very openly with her two boys.
Really?
Oh yeah, 100%. And
Hmm.
even though my dad made, um, the choice was that my dad's career would be the one to really to bet on. Like she was in real estate, my dad was in banking at that time, and she also wanted to raise two boys, and be there
Hmm.
for them. So like as a mom, but she was really clear about the bets that she was making. She was, would love to taunt my dad that she was making more money than him, when they were dating. Like she was like, I was picking up those
Really?
checks. I was really, oh yeah, 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 in real estate. Yeah. She's like, you had the better long tail career, but I gave up a lot, and went toe to toe with him, in many arguments
Yeah.
that I was
Yeah.
witnessing as a kid.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
fun.
maybe that always influenced by like, the kind of, watching your parents tells you what you want in a partner and what you don't, and I always admired that about my mom, that fierceness to her.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I remember lots of things around this topic. I remember super well how, and then maybe there's another follow on, about kids and money, and because now I'm thinking also, that my kids grow older and they need their pocket money. I remember super well my own first pocket money. I remember my parents telling me what to do with it and what not to do with it, what's a waste, and
Mm.
not to waste is hard earned money, and blah blah blah. So
Yeah.
there's so many things that you kind of get into your head with that, and it's interesting that we never question those. I mean, you kind of, if you start going through your therapy and shit, in your midlife, that you kind of uncover all of this crap, but you never uncover all the belief sentences,
No.
Glaubenssätze in German, that you made of money. But they're actually huge and has a huge impact on your life. So I'm fascinated that this is such a taboo topic in a sense. And I mean, you said it really nicely before, also in a relationship, to sit down and talk about this, right? I mean, you all sit down I mean, think of first dates when you are, around your 30s, and then very soon you talk about, I guess, kids, right? Do you want to have kids or not? But,
Yeah.
how long does it take to actually sit down? It's like, how much do you actually make? How much do I make? What do we do with it? What's our goal? What is enough for us? Remember what we talked about money, how much is enough? How do we want to go there? What is important to us? Is it safety? Is it what, blah blah blah, experiences, as you said? Is it shiny shit, right? I mean, you get your Louis Vuitton, I get my Rolex, whatever, right? I mean, but when do you actually do that? I find this
Mm.
interesting. I mean, you almost talk about that less than about sex.
True. No,
As an
no, no. I
interesting
mean, that's
stat, by
exactly.
the way, among 20-year-olds, money is actually, for 50% the biggest point of contention in a relationship, and is actually really talked about less than sex.
Really? Well,
Mhm. Which could be maybe
interesting.
because, linking this to the crisis of man story, as men
Yeah,
want to be the provider, and more often than not, especially in their 20s, they make less than women. Maybe that becomes a taboo.
totally.
I
And
don't know.
and that
Too
that
old.
plus social, yeah, the big aspirational flexes happening
Yeah.
there,
When I thought through all of this and talking through all of this, what kind of comes, as a conclusion, is almost a bit of a, non-event. It's just to sit down and talk about this, and let everything go, and realize that it is a big topic, and not
Yeah,
marginalize it. That's kind of
I
what
get
my learning was. What's yours?
I think getting clear about what the trade-offs are. So I agree with you totally, but, like, you know, I had a friend who said to me once, I always like this, like my high school friend group. He looked at all of us and he said, any one of us could be millionaires if that's what we wanted to be. We're all smart enough to do that. That's not. There's no question, right? Like, but the the journey to do that, right, is really hard. So you have to be up for that, to make that happen.
Mm,
And I see that very much as it compounds to this conversation because, and maybe this is very sets I don't know, elitist tone. I don't mean it that way, but like I think like I firmly believe our audience is probably well sophisticated enough, or not sophisticated, just well off enough to get it. What I'm trying to say, which is basically like I think I firmly believe that you have to identify the lifestyle you want and be clear about what's required to make that happen.
yeah.
And if you're
Yes.
not clear about the lifestyle you want, then it's going to get really
Yes.
tricky for you.
Yes.
And 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 you might start at different places, um, and but be clear about that first, and then I think you can design the right kind of experience on the back end for you, and where the money flows.
Yes. And I think it ties perfectly back into that, five types of worst book we talked about,
Yeah,
where it says,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
define your what is enough. um,
Totally.
and 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 also I really to me define what a contribution is to life, what
Yes,
time is worth, what time with kids is worth,
totally.
not in terms of money, but in total, and how long, if you really plan on staying together for a longer time,
Listen,
which I think you do, how things can change over time, how things are, when kids are small, how things change when they're, you know bigger.
yeah,
Like for me right
yeah,
now,
yeah,
I'm kind of like, I'm like, I've had a good part in my career. I'm happy with that. I'm happy to spend, less, focus less on that. And maybe, it changes, right? The point is you can't have it all in one, but sit down and talk about this. And that would be awesome if you could do this at the beginning, or, before you,
totally.
you kind of get into a
Or
rut.
or it's a proper reset conversation, like
Yeah, no,
here
no. I
here
mean, I think absolutely can also be that. Yeah,
yeah. Well,
100%. 100%. Interesting, my friend. Interesting.
I didn't know where this was gonna go, but I found this very rich and enlightening.
Hey, listen, I mean, we should also talk about our finances because, according to one of our Instagram commenters, we are in a relationship. Are these guys a couple? Because, guys, and this is now
Oh,
a quick
I thought
segue into the
I thought you were gonna
last
say we
segment.
should talk about our finances because they're about to take a hit in the next 2 days,
That's also true. It's also true. We can actually pay it from guys like us, which doesn't make any income. But we can just actually park our debt in that. I don't know who's going to finance it, but let's try. No, but I guess we had, and we should have said this in the beginning because now no one is listening anymore. We had our first viral video of Mark talking about the identity crisis that is flooding the Silicon Valley, and
Mhm.
we had lots of views and lots of comments, most of which were automatically hidden by Instagram because they were really not nice, and mostly were in
Hitting a
relation
nerve.
to
Yeah.
Mark's, yeah, exactly, to Mark's inability to express himself concisely. Um, but hey, it was our first viral hit, and we take it. Fuck it. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll take it.
yeah. Could
Exactly.
almost be my Terminator, but
I
it's
was
not.
malfunctioning. I was
No, it
malfunctioning,
was great. Actually, it was fantastic. It worked. Hey, it was totally unintentional. Man, Idiot and Terminator of the week. What you have?
Okay. Terminator of the week, there can only be one answer. So, for me, which is the USA hockey team. I mean, I don't know if
What
you
happened?
oh my god, we won. We beat Canada in the gold medal game today, just about
No,
3 hours ago. 3 hours
really?
ago. Oh, yeah. First
Oh,
gold
that's
medal in
big.
46 years. When have you
Wow.
seen that movie Miracle when we beat the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Russians? It
yeah.
was like a
It was
big deal. Yeah,
similar.
so it was the first time since that. Yeah, yeah, similar idea. This guy, I'm gonna show you. This guy, unbelievable. Jack Hughes takes a high stick to the face, middle of that
Yeah.
game, knocks his front two front teeth out, and then scores
And
the
then
winning goal in overtime.
what a fucking story.
Look at
Wow.
that. Look at his teeth. Look how they're missing.
Can fit the medal in between.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Fucking
Okay,
Terminator.
that's an
So cool.
amazing Terminator. That's an amazing
Yeah.
Terminator. Okay, that's good. That's great. It's great. I'll take it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm almost, but it's actually not so hard to follow up because I'm going to follow up with Toby, my friend Toby, who I met. Actually, is one of the first friends I met through one of my kids. We talked about this before, which I never
Mhm.
do, but this is a soccer, a football team friend, and him and his wife and his partner and the partner's wife, they run a bunch of restaurants in Vienna, and we are at one of theirs today for lunch. They had a pizza pop-up, which is super nice, and it's just
Fun.
so amazing when you see people who do what they do amazingly well and with passion and love, and the
Yeah.
output is just fantastic. And I could have just sat there, ate kilos of pizza and drank liters of wine, and I had to leave, which was fine, luckily, because otherwise I would have been fucked tomorrow. But I mean, shout
Well,
out to you, Toby, my
you're already
friend.
a shitty
Awesome.
shitty house guest for your friends anyway then after.
Yeah, I would have been. Yeah, no, exactly. Talking about debt. Yeah, no, I actually do. I actually am indebted. Yeah, so this is official, and I told him.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's my
Uh,
Terminator.
I have to
Idiot.
go political for the idiot of the week. I know we talk about avoid talking about Trump on this podcast, but to get rejected by the Supreme Court on his stupid tariffs and the 15%, it's like it's
Yeah,
you're
but he's
reaching.
gonna find a way out of this too. But I
Yeah,
will,
yeah.
I will, I will ask our notebook, LM, how many times you had actually named Trump as the idiot of the week. I want to know.
Listen, it should be shockingly like it should be the automatic default, but this is a big one. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Otherwise, Mother Nature for making me screw up my travel schedule, but I'm happy to be here. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
What about you?
Yeah. I mean, actually, this time I have to officially call out myself as the idiot of the week.
Yes.
Because because but on the other hand, I mean, I saved it. Could have been worse. I wanted to check in to my flight tomorrow to come to see you in Paris, and the app said 27 days to check in, and I was like, "Fuck, how is that possible? The flight's tomorrow." And only to realize that I booked the flight for the 23rd of March, and obviously it was not cancelable, refundable, or anything. So here we go. That is
There
my
you
idiot
go.
of the week. That's my idiot of
There
the
you
week.
go. Well, listen,
Yeah, it's not a bad one.
I'm glad that your idiocy won't prevent me from sharing a glass of
No,
wine
because I
with
made
you
another
tomorrow.
expense.
Yeah.
So, Mike, and you will be happy to know that you named Donald Trump as the idiot of the week 3 times in episode 3, 11, and 17.
So look, that's 10%. There you
It's
go.
not too
You know, it's
bad.
not terrible.
It's actually
No,
not. It actually is not too
no,
bad. But
no.
it's just how good our documentation is insane.
Yeah,
Leave you
yeah.
with that.
Well,
I'll leave you with
you're
that.
blowing my mind. Thank you, my
Dude,
friend. This was great.
thank you. See you tomorrow.